imagine how many ways I am going through my day and my life implementing ideas, beliefs, principles, values that I picked up from a random TikTok video, a blog post, a YouTube channel, or just a random Instagram story. Okay, so today's video is about why citing your sources is good for your well-being. And just hear me out, stick until the end so that everything comes together. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I think people don't cite their sources, why people should cite their sources, and why I have been very intentional about citing my sources. Now, a lot of the examples will be from the lens of a content creator, but I think that what I talk about can apply to really anything that you create, any idea you have, your business, your piece of art. So if it's your photographs, your videos, your paintings, your music, your writing, anything really, whatever even you put into your place of work, I think it can apply to everyone. So this video was actually inspired by a conversation I had with my twin sister Michelle, and when I was off social media for a bit, she told me about a situation that happened with a Kenyan content creator, and I leave a link to both her Instagram and her YouTube channel. And she does this thing where she recaps her day, and I think her week as well, in a specific format on Instagram, and I think she gained some traction on her page, and there was clearly inspiration. So other content creators started doing something fairly similar to her, and some did give her credit and some didn't. And I believe she actually spoke up about it on her platform. So we had this conversation, and I really got curious as to why it is that people hesitate with giving people their credit and just tagging people when they're inspired by them, when they get information from them, and just having very clear references as to where your inspiration, your information is coming from. The first thing is, I think it's about insecurity. I think people are worried that, like say me, I talk about wellness, and so I'll talk about finances, and if I tell you that I'm getting my financial information from this book or this other content creator, I think sometimes there's this fear that if you find that source of information, they might be better than me, and you will stop listening to me and hearing from me, and I will send you off to another platform, and I'll end up being redundant and useless, and I will lose the engagement that I have. It's a scarcity mentality where we kind of always have to be in competition with one another. Like we cannot thrive together, coexist, we cannot learn from each other. And honestly, putting all that weight on your shoulders to be the only source of that piece of work, I think it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. But I think it's from that fear that if I send you to that page, you're never coming back. The second reason why I think people don't cite their sources is I think that sometimes we are very hell-bent on this idea that we are original and unique. One of my favorite content creators called Ali Abdal, I leave a link to his YouTube channel down below. He's always saying how there are no unique messages, only unique messengers. So I think people get stressed out by maintaining this idea that everything I say, everything I create, everything I put out there, it has to be authentic, it has to be original, it has to be fresh, never seen before, never had, never done. And when you put that much pressure on yourself, then for sure you're not going to cite any piece of work that inspires your your creation. But I think, again, it's so much pressure to put on yourself to feel the need to be unique and original, because for the most part, everything has been done, everything has been said before. So I like to think of it like everything has been said before, but it hasn't been said by you. So what is it that you can say or do that personalizes that message? So that's what I imagine creativity is. It's more like a repurposing, not really a building from scratch. So I think of it like, here are my bits and pieces of information from all over the world, and my unique experiences and my weird interpretation of them, and then I put all that together, and then that is what I put out into the world, as opposed to what is it that I can say that you've never ever had before, because it's very rare that that is the case. Now let's talk about why I think people should cite their sources. And I got these points actually from a blog post that I link in the description box. And this one was talking about citing your sources in an academic context. So like writing references in maybe a research paper or an article, or when you're publishing in a journal. But when you read the points, they can apply to any and everything. So the first was, attribution serves as like a fact-checking tool. You never want to misquote someone or take them out of context, and the internet has become a lovely place to do just that. I think the second reason why citing your sources is good is because it makes you a good researcher. Like, you become more attentive to the details and see how to put patterns and connections together, and because you have your references there, you know where this is coming from and where that is coming from and how these two are connected. The third is, it makes you a good creator. I want to quote something the blog post said. Citing specific sources for the various facts that we present removes the hallmarks of intellectual laziness, vague thinking, and sloppy writing, as generalizations, cliches, and outright false claims, e.g., as when the phrases everyone knows or they say are replaced with specific sources. When you cite sources properly, you leave no question in your readers' minds regarding your point. Something that's very important to me, especially when I'm communicating with other people, is clarity. And I don't always do a good job being clear about my point, but it's something I am working towards. And for me to be clear about my point, I need to be sure about what it is I'm saying, where I am getting the source from, and that's essentially what that point is saying. That when you know where your thoughts are coming from, when you know where your references are, then there's no room for generalizations, for lazy speak, for sloppiness, and for misinterpretation of your point. And I think that's always, to the extent possible, it's quite important, especially when you create pieces of work that can easily be misconstrued. And one of the last but not the least points, actually for me probably one of the most important, is like citing your sources makes you more reliable. When I'm talking about certain things, like when I talk about scientific aspects of, hair and skincare, I try my best to leave the references in my blog post, or if I got it from another creator who has proper references, I will leave that in the description box. It's reliable because I always know that if I'm not too sure about something, like if I do this video and it's not too clear about what it is I quoted, the fact that there are references means that you have time to go back to those sources, explore them a bit further, dig a little deeper, and go down your own rabbit hole of research and exploration. And I think that there should always be room for that. So for me, there are two main reasons why I value and I aim to cite my sources. The first is how it impacts others, and the second is how it impacts me. So when it comes to how it impacts other people, I just think it's the right thing to do. It is ethical to cite my sources, because people can always go there for more context. And you know, if it's an idea that someone has taken their time, they've expounded on, then there may be questions that only they can answer and I can't. And so in that way, it becomes a collaboration. I don't have to bear the burden of having all the knowledge with me. And also, I may not communicate, like now as a content creator, sometimes my point doesn't come across as clearly as maybe the person I referenced could. So at the end of the day, if my goal is for as many people to have the knowledge that I have found, then it doesn't have to come from me. It doesn't have to be me who gives you that information, but I can always lead you to it in some way and you can find it elsewhere. I also think that people's ideas, people's creations, stealing from them is stealing. It's stealing even if they have 100 followers on Instagram, or they only have a small business and a young business, or a small platform, or they've only created one song. It doesn't matter. I think that people don't see that it's not just an idea, it is their intellectual property, and sometimes you're also taking away their source of income and livelihood. So I just think baseline, it's great to just credit people. It will not take anything away from you, and it will empower other people. The second reason is for myself. This is probably something I'll talk more and more about as we keep interacting, but I've been trying to figure out like what makes up the thoughts and ideas that are in my head, and where are they coming from? Where is my brain? And so when I say something, what is it informed by, or who is it informed by? So learning to cite my sources, learning when I'm having a conversation with people to just be like, oh, I read this, I heard about this thing from so and so, or I read this from this book, or I learned this from this YouTube video. It always helps me to know that this is something, first of all, that has stuck with me and has had an impact in how I am moving forward. And then knowing that that piece of information comes from there, I can always go back to it and revisit it and see what it is about that stuck. So it helped me to kind of create stronger connections to all the pieces of information I gather, because as I talked about in my digital minimalism video, there's always I think everyone at any given time is either creating or consuming. And so when you're consuming, how can you consume with intention? How can you know what it is that you're feeding your mind and your soul? So that's why for me it's important to cite my sources, so I can always know what is making me more and more every day, because there's always something that is contributing to why I'm saying what I'm saying. And more often than not, it's not new information. It could be things I already knew. I usually I think I've just been asking myself, like, imagine how many ways I am going through my day and my life implementing ideas, beliefs, principles, values that I picked up from a random TikTok video, a blog post, a YouTube channel, or just a random Instagram story. And this is happening whether or not I'm conscious of it. So I might as well have a clue where these things are coming from. I really hope this video made a bit of sense. I would love to hear from you in the comments, like, what is your system of crediting your sources or references? Is that a thing you do? Is it something that you find important to you? How have you been affected by citing sources or not being cited? Actually, have you ever experienced a situation where your work, or your work, let's just call it that, your work was not credited, and how did that impact your life? How did it make you feel? And how has it changed how you move forward? So I struggle. I get lazy, especially with citing scientific stuff. finding the link to that journal or that publication, it's a lot of work. So also it's a way for me to just remain accountable and open with where my sources of information are. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Always remember that your hair is your crown and your body is a temple. Embrace it, love it, and take care of it. Bye.